Welcome to Masters of Product Management, powered by Sequent Learning Networks, a show that provides extraordinary insights for product managers who want to go faster and farther in their product management careers.
Hello, this is JJ Rory, Vice President at Sequent Learning Networks. In our Masters of Product Management podcast, we tap into the experiences of people who work in and around product management to help you learn and grow in your product management career. If you're familiar with the game of baseball, you know the saying, batting 1,000. It means getting a hit every single time you go up to bat. And of course, no one bats 1,000, at least not over the course of any real number of at-bats. In fact, the best career batting average of all time in Major League Baseball was Ty Cobb's 366 average, which means he got a hit 36.6% of the time he went up to bat. In other words, arguably the best batter in the history of the game failed over 63% of the time. Hall of Famer Ted Williams once famously said that baseball is perhaps the only field where a person can be successful 3 out of 10 times and be considered a good performer at their job. Well, here's the truth about product management. No one bats 1,000 here either. Many products fail, or at least fail to fully meet their goals. And while we may not be able to bat 1,000, many companies and product managers are embracing techniques and practices that will help them get a hit more often, that will help them put out more successful products, more successful functionalities, things that actually matter to users. So I'm really, really excited about having my guest here today to chat with me on this topic. Justin Bauer is the head of product at Amplitude, where he strives to make it easy for companies to make better decisions from their data. He's a product and analytics thought leader who helps build teams that develop deep customer understanding and craft inspiring visions to create innovative product experiences that users love. And that's the key to building more successful product, isn't it? Building stuff that users love. Justin, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Definitely excited to share some of the learnings that I've had at Amplitude with the audience.
Yeah, it's going to be a great conversation. I thank you for being here. We're all looking forward to hearing what you've learned and what you have to share. So, as I mentioned, we all want to be successful every time, but it's, not really possible. We all know that not all products succeed, or at least find the ultimate success that we had planned for or hoped for. But you've learned a lot in your role there at Amplitude. You guys have done so much great work with companies on helping product developers, product managers, and organizations get better at that. So what have you learned in your experience on why that is? Why are some common reasons why products fail?
Yeah. I think it's a great topic, one I think a lot about. How do we end up building great products? And it means taking risks. And so sometimes you're going to see products fail. I'd actually love to build on the first analogy. I love the baseball analogy of that, hitters fail most of the time. I think that's also true in product. I think the interesting difference and why it's even more important to take risk, I think the best case scenario when you're a hitter in baseball is that you might hit a grand slam. So score 4 runs. That would be the best case scenario you could ever get. In the world of product, that upside is unlimited. You could actually build a product that literally is used by 1 billion people. And so because that upside is so unlimited, it actually makes even more sense to take riskier swings, because when you do get onto the thing that actually works, you could have tremendous impact, 1,000 grand slams. And so actually that's why I encourage people to think about how do they, if you're successful 33% of the time, that may not be taking enough risk. So we have to think about systems that enable us to understand when products are failing early and when they might be successful early, so we know where to double down and what are the things to not invest in. But going back to your kind of original question, like why do some products fail? I think there are some basic table stakes things we can make sure we all do as product leaders to help prevent those failures. The most common examples, I think, is where they start. So a lot of people think that product, it starts about being ideas. And I'm an ideas person, so I'll be a great product person. But actually, ideas are cheap. or they actually have a new technology change, and so they think about, I've got this cool technology, I want to bring it to market. And I think a lot of times people end up building products because of the technology, but not because of the customer. And that's really the thing that you have to get right from the very beginning, which is understanding your customer. That if you spend the time really understanding their problems, then you'll eventually figure out what are the right ideas to serve them, or what is the right technology to bring to them. But I've found that, a lot of times when products fails, because we didn't really understand the customer that well, we might have got a cool technology or a cool idea, but it didn't solve customer pain. And that many times so that's the thing to really start with when thinking about how do you build a successful product.
Yeah, I love that. And it's the old, a solution looking for a problem, right? I think we do that so often because, so many people that work in product are ideas people and innovators and technology people, and they can see this, glory future for, a new technology, but users don't see it yet. And so I see that a lot, and it's kind of, finding a balance between showing users that they can actually find some immediate short-term use and value in something, and being to the market too soon, kind of balancing that, if you will. So that's very interesting. So let's build a little bit further on that, and how, because this is right in Amplitude's wheelhouse. How can product teams, or how are the best product teams out there today using data and analytics and experimentation and those sorts of things to better understand what's working, what's not working early, so that they can either pivot or move to something else?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is key. That really is then the important piece. You talk about how, like, a lot of people are ideas people. They may have intuition, and intuition is really important. No question. You want to have that product intuition. But the way to figure out if the solution that you have is right or wrong is going to actually come back to the data, because the data is basically telling you what your customers are telling you at scale. And so are they using the features that you have built? Are they actually coming back over and over again? Like, you could figure that out by going and talking to a handful of companies or customers. But the best way to figure that out at scale is to actually look at the data. And the data will tell you whether what you're building is actually working or not. And so how you do this as a company, if you've never done this before, I think you need to first understand that it's a progression. Like, you're not going to go from the very beginnings to being, Facebook or Amazon from day one. But there is definitely some investments that you can make early that allow you to start to learn how to do this more data-driven product development process. And so the first that I always encourage teams to start with is to think about, what are you measuring? What are basically the KPIs that matter to you, that reflect both business value but also customer value? We call this the North Star metric, and so we think it's really critical that all teams really think about what is it that you're measuring. And this matters because I see a lot of teams, they end up looking at things like page views or sessions or other things. We call these in the industry vanity metrics. Because they might make you feel good if they're going up, but they don't actually help you understand if the customer is really getting value. And what are they doing within the product that actually is driving more value for them? And so really spend the time to think about what you're measuring. That's really the first part that you need to think about. Once you've got that in place, then it's to actually look at everything you're doing and how is it impacting what you're measuring. And so every single new feature that you're building, like thinking about what is the outcome you want to drive from that, and then actually seeing, did that happen? It's pretty surprising to me. I talk to a lot of product leaders because of my role, and I ask them, I'd love to hear the last 10 features that you launched. Like, how many of them, like, what were the actual objective measures of that? How many of them worked and how many of them didn't work objectively? Do you know the answer to that question? And a lot of teams don't. They're like, well, I think customers are happy with it. It's like, well, we can actually use data to get a much more objective answer to that question. And that is critically important, because you don't want to be then spending time on those features that aren't working. You would much rather be better off taking the teams that are working on those features that eventually won't matter, putting them on the features that are actually finding success. And so that's the science that we really try to encourage people to take. And we've built a product that really helps them accomplish that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I couldn't agree more. Too often there's a subjective, I've heard from a couple clients that they're happy, so yeah, anytime we can get objective, even quantifiable data is a really good thing. So I also liked what you said and kind of the advice of knowing that you're on a journey. It's a progression. You're not going to be best in class from day one. But obviously that's where we want to get, right? That's where every organization wants to be when it comes to this, is really, using data and analytics to optimize their products to the best degree they can. So I'm sure you've seen some companies that have been able to get to, that end state, if you will. Not that there ever is an end. We're always kind of improving, but, tell us maybe a little bit about some examples or some case studies or some of your experiences on organizations really being able to get this part of their DNA. Like everything they do around product involves optimization and data and analysis, and kind of using these tools to really set themselves apart.
Yeah, that's great. Happy to share there. I think one of my favorite actual teams that I've been working with for a number of years on this is the group over at NBC Universal. And they've, I think, really been able to change how they think about building product and go from this world where things are based all off intuition to how do we actually measure and understand the impact of everything that we're building. And so for them, I think it was a journey. Like I remember one of the first things we did was we actually did do a North Star workshop. And we actually talked about, like, with your strategy, what are the key metrics that you want to drive, and made sure there was alignment within their organization around that. We then helped them get their data into the right state to be able to measure those key metrics. And we actually worked on putting in governance programs so that all of their data was trustworthy. So that then that meant that PMs, designers, engineers had access to data and they knew it was always going to be correct. This then meant that analysts were no longer overloaded with answering questions because they had the PMs, marketers, engineers all using Amplitude, and allowed the analysts to then go and work, and data scientists to go and work on other things for the business versus just answering kind of the basic questions. And it also helped the executives understand how their customers were navigating across a network of apps. So how do users traverse from CNBC to NBC to Bravo? And what is the impact that's having on overall retention and lifetime value? And so it was, I think, but you're never done. But it's been great to see, as they describe it, they've really been able to implement this scalable framework for experimentation. How do they take bets? And they've definitely seen big improvements there. I know they did a huge change to their homepage and saw big improvements on day 7 retention. I think it might have doubled. They improved viewership by 10%. And those are things they wanted to see up front. They were able to show that the work they did drove that. And that allowed them to have conviction they were going in the right direction with their strategy.
That's awesome. I love that story. And, it goes to, everybody talks about being data driven and a lot of organizations don't even know what that means. It's almost a buzzword at this point, or at least they don't know how to implement it. So I love to hear good success stories of folks who have really embraced it from the top to the bottom. That's exciting to hear. So here's my next question. It goes a little bit back to the start of the conversation in terms of failing and success and what failure is, if you will. So I personally am a big believer that we in product management need to redefine failure, right? I mean, even frankly, the way I'm couching it in many cases in my introduction, for example, is, if we don't hit every number the way we originally thought it would be, that's failure. Well, I think that's erroneous. I think that we're still seeing too often failure defined as, an idea not making it all the way through from idea on napkin to product. But I mean, honestly, if like you said, in terms of, 33% maybe you may not be taking enough risks if that's the case. I mean, saying no to the wrong things is as much success as actually getting a successful product out there, in my opinion, right? And I'm sure you would agree with that. So have you seen the organizations that have embraced data and analytics and experimentation and this mode of operating and optimizing? Have you seen that maybe switch or at least progression to maybe redefine what failure means to them? Are you seeing any glimpses of that in those organizations?
Definitely. I think so, because I think it gives you the data can give you signal earlier into what's
Yeah.
working and what's not. And so I really do think it is about redefining failure and redefining success. I think, they're obviously both different sides of the same coin. I
Right.
think it used to be success was delivering the roadmap. And the roadmap was defined by the leader. And so it was just building the thing the leader said. There could, like, that was then what you did. And did you do it on time? And if you didn't do it on time, that was failure. But if you're really a customer driven organization, then delivering the roadmap is not like the customer, honestly, like, yeah, they love new features. They want to see but it's the outcome. Are you
Mhm.
delivering customer
Right.
happiness? Are you seeing engagement? Are you seeing retention? Are you moving the metric that represents basically the customer loving your product? And when you change the measure of success to that, then it does really make you think harder about the things you're building. And you can't spend time working on things that aren't in the end going to move that outcome. And so you have to think about how do you de-risk things as early as possible? And the best way to do that is to get early versions of that out and then actually seeing our users, is that actually delighting users or not? And you can get that through the data. And so it's about then learning a lot faster, iterating quickly, and it's a big shift for teams who are used to saying, here's our 3-year roadmap and we're going to perfectly build to that. The reality is most of that roadmap is going to be wrong. And so instead, think about where you want to start. How do you get going? How will you know if it's working or not? And you will then find that there is a right path to accomplish that broader vision. But I guarantee you it won't be the roadmap that you laid out for the next 3 years. It's going to be different. You're going to learn that as you're building when you're using data to inform those decisions.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. I love that. So, and again, builds on it. And this is my last question for you. And I ask some form of this question to most of my guests because I think, I think it's important for a broad swath of folks out there listening. Obviously, I think everyone can envision a lot of what you're talking about and a lot of things that some of the most successful companies have done from on purely software products, right? There's there's analytics built in, there's all kinds of data that we can get, but of course we live in a world where we've got physical things all around us, and those physical things are products that have been built by product teams. And so more and more we're seeing these transformations within those physical product companies to becoming digital and physical, right? The connected product, right? And so have you seen either from a physical product going connected, if you will, and having digital components in, or even maybe the customer channels or experiences becoming more digital, which of course everything is. Have you seen those types of organizations really embrace your tools, embrace these types of methods, and help them understand not only the kind of digital components, but even the full experience of their connected products?
Yeah, for sure. I think this is one of the most exciting trends that we're seeing. And this really kind of combination of digital and physical. I've heard some people describe that as phygital. And
Yeah,
and
I love
one of the
that.
things that what happens with that is whenever it is digital, that means we can instrument it. We can understand that. And so now it's actually giving companies a lot more insight into their customer experience because digital is really now touching all parts of that relationship that you have with your customer. And so I think, a couple examples of companies I've seen really embrace this. So Philips is a customer of ours, and in particular, the Philips Hue team. So if you use like the light bulb that is basically digitally enabled. And so they're actually now starting to understand the relationship between the customer, the smart bulb, and the rooms that they're in. And that's giving them insights into how to deliver a better experience. Like, what is our relationship with light, and how do we think about the role it plays within our lives? And so I think it's really exciting. They're really exploring some interesting places that you would never have thought a light bulb company would go. But this has given them the ability to do that and test things out with their customers, and they get those insights on what's working versus not because of Amplitude. I think another one, so snacks.com is an example. So Pepsi released snacks.com. It's a direct-to-consumer channel for them. They, as Pepsi, most of their customers really are like the distribution channels, and it's like, stores and mom and pop shops. They haven't had a lot of direct-to-consumer within their business. But this is a new example for them of rethinking and building a new channel where they can actually have that direct relationship with you and I. And that gives them a better understanding into consumer preferences. I know they're exploring, like, you can customize your own packs. It allows them to test out new concepts and actually get direct feedback from consumers directly because they have that channel. And so that's another example, I think, of a company that's rethinking their whole business because of digital and the new capabilities that it gives them.
Yeah, those are two great examples. I was actually thinking of several of my clients that are similar in the fact that they've been around forever, and they build things like light bulbs, and construction material, and all of these different things, appliances, and all kinds of things we can think of, and they're just doing some of the most innovative things. And I love. One of the reasons I'm such a product geek is that I love to learn about what folks are innovating around. And that's a great example. I also love the channel example, right? That's the thing that hits home so much, is that, sure, our products, and of course that is the core of what we do, but the experiences around them, the way the customers get to our products and their products get to them. And it's just exciting times. And I agree. I think there's so many more opportunities for physical type products to now embrace some of the things that digital native products had done for a while. So great examples. This has just been such a great conversation. Thank you so much, Justin, for joining me again, sharing your wisdom. I appreciate you being here on the podcast.
It's great. I've really enjoyed it too, JJ. So thank you for having me. And great questions, and love the conversation around what the future of product looks like and how we can use data to help be able to build better products for our customers.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, Justin Bauer, Head of Product for Amplitude, thank you so much for joining me. And thank you all for joining us on Masters of Product Management, powered by Sequent Learning Networks. I am JJ Rory, and I look forward to speaking with you on the next episode.
You've been listening to Masters of Product Management, powered by Sequent Learning Networks. If you'd like to take your career to the next level with additional tools, training, coaching, and books, be sure to visit Sequent Learning Networks at sequentlearning.com.